Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Raful. I'm so excited to have you here today. This is At This Stage presented by Camp Broadway with our friends at Streamable Learning. I'm live here in my apartment in New York City, and we're here to connect you with Broadway professionals, both on and off the stage, to you, our students, our families, our teachers across the world. So we're so excited to have you here today. Our guest today, I'm so excited. Our guest is Jenna Gavigan. Hi, Jenna.
Hi, how are you? Pardon my lighting. I look a little like a theater ghost, I've decided. So we're going to go with that.
I like it. I think it works for today. So Jenna is a stage and screen and film actress as well as an author. So we have a lot to talk about today. But I'll give you a little bio of Jenna. So Jenna made her Broadway debut at 16 in the Bernadette Peters revival of Gypsy, and went on to do many, many stage and screen roles. And most currently has two books, which we're so excited about, Lulu the Broadway Mouse, and the sequel, which is due, I believe, next week, which is The Show Must Go On. And if you want to find either of those books, they're going to be on the Camp Broadway Book Club on Goodreads, so you can find them there and many other places. Jenna, how are you? Where are you?
Good. I'm in New York City. I'm 20 blocks south of the Schubert Theater. So, you know, we're hunkered down here in New York City, and it's actually pretty calm. If you're not, you know, running around, so which nobody is. So it's all good. We're in our cozy little house, and we're very lucky.
Perfect. Before we delve into Lulu and her fantasticness, let's go back to the beginning. What were your earliest memories of theater? How did you become involved?
That's not true. I spent 6 years of my life in California, but all of my growing up was in New York. So I started my life in Brooklyn. So that's the city for those of you who don't know. And we had this tiny little square of marble, like right at our front entrance to our house in the living room. And I remember dancing there for my family. And we moved out of that house when I was 5 and a half. So all of this started at a very young age. And then when we moved to the suburbs, I started taking, you know, the like after school drama programs that we've all taken. And right around 5th grade or so, one of the teachers there said to my parents, you know, I think maybe it's time for her to start auditioning professionally. And I'm an only child, so that wasn't too giant of a hurdle for my parents. So we started that, and my first Broadway audition was in the 6th grade. Didn't get it.
Okay. What was it for?
It was for The Sound of Music with Rebecca Luker. Yeah, at what's now the Al Hirschfeld, but was the Martin Beck. And that had actually been the first theater I'd ever been to. I saw the Guys and Dolls revival there in the 2nd grade. And that really kind of, you know, kick-started my interest. And yeah, then over those years, for some reason, there were a lot of shows with kids around that time. Auditioned for a lot, got close to a lot of callbacks, a lot of crying. And then a few years later, Gypsy worked out, which was wonderful.
So yes, my friends that are watching, please feel free to start asking questions in the Q&A. I promise to get to them, as many of them as I can. Caitlin has a question. How did you work your way up to those big auditions? Did you need an agent? Did your mom take you?
I did have an agent. And you know, I think part of why this kind of worked relatively quickly was that, you know, I grew up 45 minutes from Midtown Manhattan. So I wasn't traveling from a faraway state. And, you know, the after school theater program that I went to, people who taught there had relationships with people like agents and such in New York City. So I got an agent through one of my teachers there when I was a little girl. And yeah, and that was a very different time. That was before we really used the internet. So you were, you know, instead of clicking a button to submit you for an audition, your agent got on the telephone or put your headshot in an envelope and sent it through the mail. So it was a very different No social media, no email, none of that. So it was a very different time. And yes, my mother, because my dad was the one who went to work every day, my mom was almost always the one who would take me to auditions, which was very kind of her.
So then, okay, so then you did the show, and did you continue to audition? What I know you've done a lot of TV and film. How did that journey take you?
Yeah, so I did the show. I was a junior and senior in high school. So in addition to doing the show, I was going to high school.
And who did you play in Gypsy?
I was a Hollywood blonde, and I understudied June, Dainty June, Kate Reinders. And I went on a lot, which was nice. That's not always the case as an understudy. So it was nice to go on. And yeah, so I was a junior and senior in high school. I took my SATs before a 2-show day. Took my SATs in the morning and went and did a matinee in the evening. You got to rally, everybody. And yeah, so I went to Columbia right out of high school, 18 years old. And then at the end of that, my first year, I got a television pilot that then got picked up to series, which means you shoot a lot of episodes. And I had to move to Los Angeles for that. So I wound up actually living in LA from ages 19 to 25. Oh. And I would come back from time to time and do some classes at Columbia, keep my status there. And then I moved back at 25 and went back to school full time. And but yeah, mainly what I did during that time was television. The majority of what I did, completely not that I didn't want to be doing theater. It just happened that I figured out, I guess, how to audition for television. I cry really easily. I think that
it's a good skill to know. It's a good skill.
Yeah.
And now you're an author, so you kind of can do everything. How did that come about? How did that even?
I can't do everything. I can no longer do a split. I would drown in a dance call. I by no means can do everything, but yes, send me things to grammar check for you, and I will help you out with that.
I love that.
You know, very long story short, on the author front, when I started at Columbia at 18, I was really burnt out on school, as I think most people are at that age. I just sort of declared an English major because I had to declare something. And then while I was living in LA, I realized that I really liked writing in addition to being an actor. And I realized that writing on television would be something I would be really interested in. So when I came back to Columbia at 25, I declared a creative writing major. So I spent most of that time taking television and film and fiction writing classes. And then my last semester at Columbia, I took a children's book writing class, more picture book than novel.
Okay.
And I wrote this story that had been in my head since Gypsy, about this mouse who dreams of performing on Broadway. And that story came into my head because we had some mice in our theater.
Because Gypsy was at the Schubert, which is where
the set.
Right.
And a lot of Broadway theaters, as do many old buildings in New York, have some mice friends that live there. But our mice seemed very vivacious. They seemed to have really big personalities. They didn't, like I remember Bernadette's standby saying she would rehearse in the basement. Like while Bernadette was upstairs, she would be downstairs going through everything, and she like performed to like a family of mice like sitting there watching her. So that is where the idea for this book series came from.
And what is your writing process like? Can you sit down and just write for hours? How did the book develop?
Write every day or you're not a writer thing, I don't really subscribe to. I don't think that that's true. I also don't think you need to warm up every day to be a singer or go to dance class every day to be a dancer. Like you're a human being and you have to give yourself breaks. So yeah, there are some days, especially in like first draft land, where it's like you're actually creating the content. some days I would sit down and write for a couple hours. Some days I would sit down and write 3 sentences. It kind of just depended on my mood. I wrote the first book relatively quickly. That said, I had been thinking about it for over a decade. So I had done a lot.
You just had to put it in paper, put it down.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I think when I write pretty quickly and I write pretty cleanly. But you know, this was a story that I kind of knew what I wanted to say. And then once someone buys your book, it's actually really nice because as an actor, you very rarely know from day to day and week to week what the heck's going on. As an author, they're like, we acquired your book. Great. Here's the next 2 years of your life in a Word document and when things are going to be needed to, you know, to be due and all that. So I was very comforted by that. Structure, because I have had very little structure in my life. So yeah, there's a lot of editing that goes on, and there's a lot of proofreading to make sure you don't send a book out into the world with spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes.
All right, I'm going to throw you a couple questions from our audience here. Okay. We got this a little, but Jennifer wanted to know what inspired you to be an author.
I will say that I started realizing that I've been saying this thing of following the green lights lately. I don't know where I got it from, but I hope it makes sense when I say follow the green lights in your life. And I think a lot of times, especially early on in my life and in my career, maybe in my 20s when I was in LA, I was like driving and like yellow was going to red and I was like, I'm gonna get it kind of thing. And writing sort of opened itself up to me and was like, hi, you're good at this. And this is something else that you can do that you can hopefully make money at, but also feel satisfied doing. Also, being a writer and an author means that you don't have to put on makeup and heels and look good all the time and throw yourself out there in a very physical way like we do when we're auditioning. And I liked that, but it was less of a plan and more of something that just kind of slowly happened, and I allowed it to happen. If that makes sense.
Can you tell us, I mean, I know because I was delving into it the past couple of days. Can you tell us the story of Lulu, kind of for those who might not know who Lulu is and what she's all about?
Where's Lulu?
Where's Lulu? Do you have Lulu with you?
Lulu.
Oh, there she is.
I just can't with the cover. It's so pretty.
It's so pretty.
And then the back is, I think, even prettier. I just love it. So Lulu's a little me. Lulu is all of us. Lulu is a little mouse who lives in the Schubert with her parents and 4 brothers, and she wants to be on Broadway. And in this world that I have created, the humans and mice talk to each other. It's this magical world of the theater, and they coexist happily and they talk to each other. But no mouse has ever performed on Broadway. She helps them with their lashes. She helps them rehearse. She is very much part of the company, but no mice are performing on Broadway because the outside humans can't handle that yet. So we just open the first book with Lulu declaring that that's her dream. And then we sort of dive into her life of her everyday routine of helping certain cast members with certain parts of their pre-show routine and during show routine and post-show routine. And then a new little girl joins the company, and Lulu introduces her to the world of the theater. And because of the introduction of this little girl, Lulu, perhaps things happen.
Oh, don't give it away.
Yeah.
Don't give it away. And without giving too much away, and the second book is the continuation of Lulu's journey?
The second book is the continuation. So the introduction chapter actually flashes forward in time, and Lulu basically says, this is what's happening. something not great. I just want to let you know this is happening. Okay, let's go back to
great.
The first book, and we're going to see how this all played out. So it pretty much is a continuation of the first book. Oh, here she is.
Where is she? Yeah, second one, show us gone.
And these covers, right? I mean,
they're so beautiful.
They're so beautiful.
Love that.
Yeah, the Schubert is not actually purple, but maybe it could be. I don't know. It's so pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see. I have a question. Oh, great. Question from, I hope I'm saying this right, Annika. Do you share your book drafts with your target age audience before publishing to get feedback and suggestions?
Ooh, I do not. My friend Bridget, who inspired a character in the book, Bridget's job is a child guardian on Broadway, and her first child guardian
Can you
job
explain what that for some of our friends?
Her first job was in Gypsy, so I've known her a long time. She so a child guardian basically when you're under 16, you cannot be unaccompanied at work in a theater. So there is a person whose job it is to kind of become the guardian or the parent of the child when they are backstage. And it's usually a group of children. So Bridget's current job is at Harry Potter. So there are a couple kids in that. And her husband is in the Phantom of the Opera, and her son, until the closing, was in Kinky Boots. So when I was writing the second book, I was constantly texting them to like make sure I was still accurate with a lot of things. Okay. And her son, gosh, how old is he now? 8 or 9. He was kind of like he would weigh in on a couple things, but I feel like the deal with sort of feedback and notes is that sometimes if you get too much feedback, then it's kind of like if you had 105 people give you notes on your audition, you're just going to be overwhelmed. Whereas if you have, one or two people saying, you know what, actually, I think you could like do this line this way, or, maybe on this note, do this, or what have you. So we don't want too many people weighing in, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Where did that question go? Oh, we have a note from Sunny. She said the Gypsy revival is a special memory for her because she and her mom, her mom took her for her high school graduation.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, here we go. From Aria in Canada. Was it hard to balance high school and theater? She's starting high school next year.
It was always hard to, I guess from 6th grade on, my mother would pull me out of school, like last period or whatever for auditions here and there. And sometimes I'd have to miss if I got a job or, so that started out as hard because, you're balancing having to do your homework. And my parents were parents that were like, if your grades start to drop, this is over. Like, this is not, school is important. And yeah, during Gypsy, it was tricky because I wasn't a kid, but I kind of was, but I was in the adult part of the company.
Sure.
So I wasn't tutored in with the little kids, the 9, 10, and 11-year-old kids. So I had my tutoring before rehearsal and then on the weekends. So it was it could be a little tiring. I think more than anything, I was just really tired a lot of the time. That said, I woke up every day knowing that I got to perform on Broadway. So it definitely got me through, once I went back to school, which I did right after we opened. Once I went back to regular school, you're sitting through economics going, it's okay, you get to perform with Bernadette tonight. So balance is going to just be a part of life, and it's most definitely going to be a part of life as an artist. Sure. And we just kind of have to day by day, figure that out. But I think it helps when you have, something that you're so focused on and that you're so in love with to, be able to do.
Absolutely. We have some questions for some aspiring actors and actresses.
Sure.
What were auditions like for you, especially here in New York versus LA? Were you nervous? How did you get over that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more you audition, I don't know. There was a time when I was auditioning a lot and I still got nervous. I think the more prepared you are, the less nervous you will be. I find that memorizing, especially for television and film, is incredibly important, being off book if you can be. If you can't be totally off book, make sure you memorize the first page and the last page of whatever they give you. And I think over the years, I realized that if you're not having fun at your audition, most likely the people behind the table are not going to be having fun. And then that translates to the wider audience. So at the end of the day, this is all a giant game of make-believe. We're playing pretend. We're playing dress up like we did with our friends in our basement when we were 5. So we prepare and we vocalize and we stretch and we do all the things that we need to do. But then at the end of it, we need to just kind of go in and have fun and let our personality shine through, because that is absolutely the only thing that makes you different from everyone else, is that you're you. So try to not, try to conform to whatever the breakdown says or whatever you heard they want from this part or what have you. I can pretty much say that most of the really important jobs I've gotten in my life, I've gotten because I knew I was right for it, and I was right for it, me. Like the Jenna could shine through, and that's why I didn't get other jobs, because there were other people who they were actually the ones who they were the puzzle piece that fit in that job.
Really?
Yeah, be nice to yourself, have fun.
It's fun. So you talked about balancing theater and high school, and now as an author, are you still balancing being an actor and an author? How do you, or does one help the other? Are you still auditioning?
I think that the business has gotten, for me at least, in the last couple of years, a little wacky. And I don't know if it's because I'm no longer playing like teenage people or what it is, but it's gotten a little slower. That said, I also, like a couple weeks after a play I was in closed, I started writing Lulu, and I kind of haven't stopped since. So I also haven't been maybe like hustling in the way that I was and like pushing for appointments the way that I was, because this job was right here in front of me and I was enjoying it, and I didn't want to not give it my all. When auditions come up, I go to them or tape myself for them, which seems to be more and more the norm.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of voiceover auditions, which are really fun and don't take that much time, which is nice. I kind of just, as I said before, like I follow the green light, like the door that's open is the one I will go through. That doesn't mean I'm not willing to fight for something that I want. But I've learned over the years that oftentimes the thing you should be doing is the thing that is being handed to you. Yeah.
Sure. To you, let's see. So we have Abigail. Abigail was saying, I'm in high school and I want to join a different theater company next year, but mom doesn't think she can juggle between the two. What do you suggest for balancing the two?
Is Abigail, are you in
high school?
And you can type it to me, I guess. Are you in a theater company already? Does this mean that you'd be in 2 theater companies, or what's the scoop there? I'm going to watch for Abigail to respond.
Yeah, Abigail, you respond. I'm going to ask one more question. Do you have a favorite children's book? Oh wait, here we go. Abigail said, no, she'd only do the new one. Just finding again with balance and being a balance. Maybe.
I mean, what I would say is, if I were the mother, and I am currently pregnant, so this is going to be an issue for me someday, maybe.
Yeah.
I would say, okay, like, you're going to give this a try, but if your grades start to suffer, you know, we're cutting the after school program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it really is, you guys, like, while it feels so important to be doing all the theater things right now, it's actually really important to get an education and to become a person who can go into any room and converse with any type of person, and also get any script and be able to go, okay, I can research this, I can understand these words, I can understand why this person has put this together in this way. And I think the more educated we are and the more sort of well-rounded we are, it does help us as actors. So I know school can feel, believe me, I know school can feel daunting and unimportant, but it will be over before you know it, and you don't get to go back and do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say to your mom, like, give me a chance, like, to prove you wrong. Like, I'm gonna do both of these things, and I'm gonna do both of them well.
I love that. Sally wants to know, what's your favorite children's book, either now or when you were growing up, besides Lulu?
I don't know. I mean, picture book wise, I loved the Angelina Ballerina books, like, loved.
Mm-hmm.
Tuck Everlasting keeps coming up. I've been talking to a lot of fourth graders this week, and I remember reading Tuck Everlasting in the fourth grade and loving it. And then, of course, many years later, it became a musical.
Mm-hmm.
I loved this book called The Witch of Blackbird Pond at that same age. That is kind of one of those I'm surprised no one's ever made a movie of. It's, like, really great.
Maybe that's your next screen. Maybe you're a screenwriter.
I do love things with witches in them. I do. I still cannot wrap my head around that Hocus Pocus is not a Broadway musical. I don't understand.
You've got some love for Witch of Blackbird
Pond.
Oh,
good. Yeah, I have such a vivid memory of reading it in the fourth grade.
One of this stuck with you.
Yeah.
What about some favorite actors or actresses you've worked with? Or any memorable?
This was my Secret Santa gift for Gypsy. You can see my little baby right here. So actually, our conductor Marvin Laird was my Secret Santa, so he had this shirt made for me. I mean, Bernadette's kind of the tippity top, and not just because of talent. She's just a really good person who cares about people and the environment and animals. And she is very responsible, and she set the bar very high as to how to behave as a performer and as a company member. I think Kelly O'Hara is just, her voice every time, I can't believe it's real. The whole company of Hadestown right now, like, really feeling them.
Really feeling.
There's just so many talented people. I mean, when I saw Matilda, I really, like, I felt like I was a little girl again, and I was like 29 when I saw Matilda or something, but I wanted to be Matilda. Like, I mean, all of those kids were just so talented. So there's nothing quite like seeing talent, really, and working with talent.
Yes, absolutely. Getting back to one of my questions I had for you. So you've done already so many things, which is amazing, that you are a writer and actress and everything, and an author. And is there anything you would change about your path? Anything you wish you had done differently, or it sort of all makes you you?
It definitely all makes me. And in this moment where I'm sitting here, you know, while I would, of course, change what's going on out there right now, I have a wonderful husband. I have a healthy baby on the way. I have work that I love. So we have to, of course, always feel like, you know, things work out the way they should. Looking back, I think, one, because I had a lot of success as a young age, I think there was a part of me that thought the opportunities would always be there. I would always have you know, 4 auditions in a week. I would always be on everyone's list. And I wish I had sort of, not that I was unprepared for auditions or I didn't appreciate them or anything, but I think I wish I had appreciated it even more, and really taken advantage of all the opportunities I was given. That said, especially with television in LA, you get kind of burnt out because oftentimes you'll get to 6 o'clock and then it becomes 6:15 and you suddenly have an audition for 10:30 the next morning. So you're going through this cycle of just learning lines and learning lines and learning lines. And while it's wonderful when you get the job, it can be tiring. I mean, it happens in the theater now too. I don't quite understand it, but like the whole, here's 16 pages of material and your auditions tomorrow is like, I've never understood that protocol, but it can be very tiring. And so I look back and I'm like, while I do sometimes, you know, like, what if I had gotten 3 more TV jobs while I was in LA? I'd have even more money coming in now, and this and that, and what would have happened and all of that. You can only do so much before you know, make yourself sick. And you need to sleep. It's important to sleep.
Sleep is important. Sleep and food, absolutely.
Health is important. Mental health is important. Yeah.
Okay, 2 more questions. So we got your advice to aspiring actors. What about advice to aspiring authors?
My advice to aspiring authors is just to write. Like I said, do not feel like you need to write every day in order to be a writer. I just don't think that that's the case. Read as much as you can. When I was going to Columbia, I lived down here downtown, so I had a pretty long train ride up every day, and I took to reading the New Yorker, the magazine. And I feel like even just reading those short articles and little bits of a lot of different voices, you start to then develop your own voice from that. So a very easy thing to do for aspiring writers is just to read. And I think the same holds true for television and film writers. If you can get your hands on an actual script, great. There are ways to do that. And playwrights as well. A fun thing to do with television is to sit there and outline an episode of television. You'll quickly realize that it's all very formulaic, especially comedies. Just sort of know how things work and see how people within those formulas like sort of continue to be different and continue to create all these different types of shows for all these different types of people. It's the same thing with a book, I mean, and the same thing with a movie, and the same thing with a play. Like, you have an inciting incident and then things happen. You have a problem that needs to be solved. So if you have the bones right to begin with, and you can figure out what the bones need to be very easily by just reading and seeing things, then you can just let your own ideas, like, you know, soar, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, fantastic. It's just amazing. I just love what you do. Last question. So Camp Broadway, which is one of the presenters of this series, our motto is develop your character. What, in a couple of sentences, what does character mean to you?
Well, I think there's character in like I was saying about Bernadette, how she, you know, is a good person. I mean, I think it can become very easy in this business to only think about yourself, because at the end of the day, you're paying your bills, you're on your health insurance, you're, you know, it's your face in the program or not. But I think we want to make sure, especially in the theater, but it holds true everywhere, that we want to be a member of a company, and we want to be the person who many years after someone works with you, they say, oh, she's a good person. Not, oh, that one time on a Tuesday she hit this high note and it was like, wow, that's great. Yeah. But we also want to, I at least strive to be the person who someone goes, oh, no, she's someone you actually want to work with. She's going to be reliable as a performer, but she's also going to be a person who, you know, other company members like seeing every day. You know, you see these people every day. Sometimes you wind up seeing the people you work with more than your friends or your family. Sure. And it really helps when people get along. So I would say that with character. And then, I don't know, for a long time, I think I like, especially when I lived in LA, I had like long hair and like highlights, and you know, you think you have to fit into this box. And then one day it's like, no, there are Kimmy Schmidts. Like, if you're Kimmy Schmidt, I see that. You know, like, that's different. That's awesome. Like, you know, what's Amber Gray is such a great, she's such a specific person. And I feel like if she were a person who tried to fit into some other box, she wouldn't be nearly as entertaining or interesting. And she's so herself and has brought something so incredible to the role she plays. Yeah. And so I think, like, start from you and then, you know, go from there. Like, if you're playing the Trunch Bowl, you're probably not going to look like you, but like, you pull out parts of yourself in everything that you do.
Thank you so much for sharing everything. How can people find you, find the books? Where do they find Lulu? Obviously they can find it on Camp Broadway's book club on Goodreads. We have both the Lulus, but where else can they find you?
You can find me very simply, Jenna _ at Jenna _ Gavigan at both Twitter and Instagram. And I have a website called IamJennaGavigan.com, but Twitter and Instagram, frankly, I'm on all day long, which is terrible, but I am. So just go for that. And then you can really buy these books wherever you buy your books. I am a fan of small bookstores, especially right now, small businesses need our support. If you happen to have a small bookstore in your town that you like, they probably will order it for you and send it to your house for no charge. So try that. If not, Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. I also narrated the audiobook for this.
Oh, perfect.
Which was so fun. And I would do audiobooks every day if I could. So if your eyes are tired and you just want to lay down, I will read the book to you. So you can get that on Audible or wherever you buy your books.
I love that. That's so special. Thank you for being here, Jenna. Thank you everyone for watching. Please follow us on Camp Broadway, all of our social media, Camp on Instagram and Facebook. Tell us if you're enjoying this. Tell us who else you'd be interested in seeing. Tomorrow, I will not be here, but we have a special host, and we will be interviewing Emilio Sosa, theater, film, and TV designer, a set designer. So he is fantastic. So we will see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.